Hola a todo el mundo y bienvenido a mi canal. Yo me llamo Sylvia. Soy una abogada latina licenciada practicando las leyes criminales, pero como todos ustedes, a mí me fascina cuando estamos hablando de casos de crímenes reales. En este video vamos a seguir hablando de Sean Diddy Combs. Si quieren más video en español, nada más dime allá. Woohoo! Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Desiree. I'm a licensed and practicing Afro-Latina criminal attorney who, much like the rest of you, has a severe fascination with true crime cases. Listen, okay? Listen. Last week, we discussed the full third week of Diddy's trial. And this week, we're going to continue on in our multi-part saga of the man, the myth, the legend, again, whatever you guys want to call him, Sean Diddy Combs. As I've stated in some of my prior trials, the discussions that we're talking about, what's happening in Diddy's trial, are just recaps. Okay, I don't think it's necessary to go through every last word and statement that every victim, witness, whoever has made, specifically because we can't see them testify. So I don't know if you guys want to just sit and listen to me tell you about everything they've ever said, but I don't think that'd be fruitful. Keep that in mind as we continue on. Let's get started. The 14th day of Diddy's trial continued on Monday, June 2nd of 2025. If you'll remember last week, Diddy's attorney, Brian Steele, was starting his cross-examination of Mia. And once again, remember, Mia is a pseudonym for someone who has chosen to testify anonymously. But wait! Full stop! Before Mia resumed the stand, we had a little bit of an issue to address. And the issue is a man by the name of Eddy Garcia. So before the jurors were brought in, Eddy Garcia went into the courtroom to invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. The court listened to Eddy Garcia and granted him immunity and compelled his testimony under an immunity. We've seen the court do that a few times before with other witnesses in this case, but I think it's important to note that Eddy did that before Mia resumed the stand. My thoughts on why Eddy did that. Okay, what do we know so far about that specific hotel? We know that is the hotel that we got the hotel surveillance footage from. If I had to bet my bottom dollar, I would say that Eddy somehow is involved with the concealment of that tape. And that's why he requested immunity. We won't find out until a little bit later, but let's continue on in Mia's cross-examination testimony. During cross-examination, Diddy's defense attorney, Brian Steele, went through one of Mia's prior resumes where she stated she was a personal assistant for Mike Myers between 2008 and 2009. Defense also pointed out a specific portion of Mia's resume where she described herself as having thick skin. When asked about her thick skin comment, Mia merely responded, "Well, I thought I did." Defense then went through some text messages between Mia and Diddy, starting with a message that began in 2018. In that 2018 message, Mia texted Diddy around Christmas and said, "Merry Christmas, I love you so much." In another text message, dated January 15th of 2019, Mia texted Diddy to say that she had a nightmare where she was trapped in an elevator with R. Kelly and Diddy saved her. In a third message pointed out by defense, dated March of 2019, Mia sent Diddy a message saying that she was sending him all the love in the world. Then, defense very pointedly asked Mia, "Are you still under Diddy's grip since you haven't been working for him for such a long time?" Mia responded that she felt she still was, at least psychologically. Mia also stated that the text messages that defense was referencing happened during a very tragic moment in her life, which was the passing of Diddy's child's mother, Kim Porter. In another text message dated December 2019, Mia stated that she was sending love to Diddy and his family. When asked about this specific message, she said that it was sent the exact day of Kim Porter's birthday. Mia stated that she was employed with Diddy prior to him having full-time videographers, so part of her job was to carry around a pocket camera and record everything that Diddy did. When defense asked Mia if she had any footage of Diddy berating her or any footage showing his anger and rage, she responded absolutely not. In elaboration to her response, she stated, "I wouldn't have been allowed to film that. I only filmed what he wanted me to." She further stated that filming Diddy in one of his moments of rage would have been a huge break of trust, loyalty, and confidentiality. When asked by defense, Mia stated that she did not tell anyone about the alleged abuse that she endured at the hands of Diddy while it was happening. Mia further stated that nobody around Diddy batted an eye when he misbehaved. Mia stated that Diddy was still praised in the public eye and in his inner circle. Mia further confirmed that she was constantly seeking Diddy's approval because he was her only authority figure. When asked about the alleged sexual assault, Mia stated she didn't want to tell Cassie about it because in the way that Diddy was threatening her about it, it made her feel like she did something wrong. At this point, the jurors were then shown a video that Mia made for Diddy in celebration of his 44th birthday in 2013. It's important to note that in the video, Mia is seen blowing a kiss towards the camera and stating, "I love you, happy birthday." After Mia's continued testimony on cross-examination, the court took a short break, and there was an issue that AUSA Maurene Comey thought it'd be important to address. AUSA Comey accused defense attorney Brian Steele of trying to harass and humiliate Mia while she was on the stand. AUSA Comey further confirmed that she felt like Brian was argumentative with Mia, that he was sarcastic in his tone, and he was even yelling at her. After argument, the court stated it actually didn't notice Brian Steele yelling or being sarcastic towards Mia, but it did caution him about the argumentative nature of his cross-examination questions. After this warning and after conclusion of the brief break, the court resumed Mia's cross-examination. When asked how Diddy would possibly know about confidential text messages between Mia and Cassie, Mia responded that Diddy had stolen her phone numerous times, and that's how he presumably found out. She further clarified that she believed Diddy had stolen Cassie's phone as well, had put tracking devices on her vehicle, and she was absolutely terrified of this man. Mia stated throughout her employment with Diddy, she actually wasn't allowed to tell the truth about very many things. She stated that Diddy would spin a narrative, and she was required to uphold whatever narrative that was. When asked if she ever told Cassie that she should leave Diddy, Mia responded, "Not in the way I wish I could have." Mia further testified that she never mentioned any sexual assault or alleged sexual assault allegations against Diddy in the 2017 meeting that she had regarding severance from his company. Defense further clarified and asked Mia if she was aware of the Me Too movement at the time, and she responded no. Mia further testified that she doesn't recall when she told the prosecutors about the alleged sexual assault. But when asked to clarify, Mia stated, "I definitely didn't tell them before I got my own lawyer." Mia testified that she was indeed able to spend time with friends and family during her employment with Diddy, but those times were few and far between. When asked why she didn't mention any of the alleged sexual assault to her family members and friends, she responded, "It's far more complex than that." At some point in the middle of Mia's cross-examination testimony, the jurors took a lunch break, and after the lunch break, Mia resumed the stand for continued questioning. After the lunch break, Mia confirmed that she didn't intend to sue Diddy. When asked if she was fired from her position for excessive alcohol use, Mia responded again, "Absolutely not." Unlike Capricorn Clark, Mia stated she actually didn't feel like Diddy blacklisted her because she was able to work for Madonna for 8 months after leaving Diddy in 2017. Mia further confirmed she never considered reporting Diddy's alleged sexual assault, even anonymously. And finally, when describing the abuse, Mia stated that she didn't scream while it was happening because she was so shocked. Brian Steele and Nicole Westmoreland have a very specific and unique style when it comes to cross-examination. Every time that we've talked about a cross-examination that either attorney has conducted, they're so methodical. They are so complex. They are so thorough in their approach that it's quite astounding. Brian Steele went through each text message that Mia delivered to Diddy, one by one by one by one. Instead of just asking a blanket question, well, didn't you text him still, and weren't you texting him still after your employment with him ended? But this is the man that you alleged to have sexually assaulted you? Like, what's going on here? He made sure that Mia knew that they were going to have a very painful process in going through all the messages one by one by one. Now, I'm not saying that this process was kind. I'm not saying it was polite. I'm not saying it spared Mia's feelings. I'm saying it was effective. It got to the point that Brian wanted to get to, specifically in cross-examining Mia. He tried to paint her as dishonest. He tried to make her seem like a not credible witness. And by some media outlets that I have seen reporting on this case, I think he might have accomplished that in the eyes of some. Brian is phenomenal. So let's see what happens with the next witness. After Mia, the government then called their 22nd witness to the stand, Sylvia Okken. Sylvia is the area director of sales and marketing at the Beverly Hills Hotel. I'll admit that Sylvia is one of the people who I couldn't find which prosecutor did her direct examination, but her testimony was relatively brief. She stated that she had recalled some reservations that Diddy made under the alias Frank Black. She further clarified that it's actually really common for guests in the entertainment industry to book hotels using aliases. She said the hotel's profile and records contain both the celebrities' aliases as well as their real names. The jurors then were shown hotel records that showed Cassie as an accompanying guest for one of Diddy's stays. Jurors then saw two bills, one where Diddy was charged $500, an additional bill where he was charged $300 for cleaning of drapes as well as cleaning of excessive oil. As I stated when we began Sylvia's direct examination testimony, she wasn't really a long witness. Defense didn't really cross-examine her much, and her testimony concluded Diddy's 14th day of trial that Monday. So as far as her direct examination testimony is concerned, I don't really have much to say. She's just another foundational witness. Through her, the government was able to get in hotel records showing that Diddy was charged for excessive amounts of oil and also showing that Diddy used different aliases. There's really not much to it. Let's continue on in day 15. The 15th day of Diddy's trial continued on Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. This day quite literally started with a bang. Judge Maurene ordered that a woman be escorted out of the courtroom for causing a disturbance. She was quite literally yelling, "Diddy, these mother effers are laughing at you," and some other things because she was actually in defense of Diddy. It took 3 court officers to remove this lady from the courtroom, but by everyone's account, Diddy actually looked at her quite emotionlessly. You know that phrase, when it rains, it pours? Like everything just starts to trickle down all at once. Because after the court removed this woman, it had to remove another person from the courtroom for violating the court's order to use Mia as the pseudonym for this woman that's testifying. Prosecutors told the court that this man used Mia's real name on his YouTube channel, and they had also seen him recording outside of the courthouse. He was removed too. After all this commotion, the prosecution called their 23rd witness to the stand, Eddy Garcia. Please remember that Eddy is the person who went into the courtroom yesterday before the jurors reconvened to assert his right against self-incrimination. So Eddy is testifying under the court's immunity. And let's see what he has to say. Eddy's direct examination was led by AUSA Mitzi Steiner. Eddy confirmed that he worked as a security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles in March of 2016. Do you remember the very first witness that stepped foot on that stand? LAPD officer Israel Flores. And remember that before Israel Flores was an LAPD officer, he also worked at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. Eddy testified that the two remain in contact despite not working together any longer. Eddy stated that he knew Israel testified in this case because he saw a TikTok video about it, but he has not spoken to him directly about his testimony. Eddy further stated that he was 24 back when this happened in 2016, and that he had merely been working at the property for a few months at the time of this occurrence. When asked, Eddy confirmed for the jurors that he was testifying under an immunity order. Much like Israel, Eddy testified that he didn't initially recognize the people in the surveillance footage, but then later learned that they were Diddy and Cassie. Eddy explained that law enforcement didn't arrive to the scene of the incident because Cassie didn't request their presence, nor did she request for medical assistance. Eddy also testified that about 90 minutes into his shift, the exact same day of this occurrence, KK called him, identified herself as Diddy's personal assistant, and asked if Eddy could help them retrieve that footage. Eddy said he told KK that she either needed to reach out to hotel management or get a subpoena. Eddy stated that about an hour after that conversation concluded, he received a phone call from a hotel operator stating that there was a woman looking for him in the lobby. He said he saw KK. She reintroduced herself and then asked if she could see the footage because she wanted to know what they were dealing with. Eddy stated that he didn't show her the footage, but he told her off the record. It's kind of bad. He stated after KK left, he then received another call from a New York area code. He said that KK was on the line and eventually passed the phone to Diddy. Eddy said that Diddy told him if this got up, it could ruin him. Eddy testified that he told Diddy exactly what he told KK, that he needed to reach out to hotel management or get a subpoena. Eddy said at that point, Diddy then requested a meeting with hotel management to discuss the video. Eddy said after Diddy's request, that call hung up, but guess what? He received yet another call from KK, but this time on his personal cell phone. Eddy then said at that point KK passed the phone to Diddy again, and Diddy explained that Eddy sounded like a good guy. Eddy claimed he told Diddy once more, "I don't have access to that video, man." Eddy said at that point, Diddy told him he could take care of him, and Eddy understood that to mean financially. Eddy testified that he got off that call with KK and Diddy, and then he called his hotel manager and said that Diddy was willing to pay for the hotel video surveillance footage. Eddy said that his boss agreed to do it for $50,000, and then he called KK and Diddy to tell them about it. Eddy then said that Diddy called Eddy his angel and told him he knew that Eddy could help. Eddy said the very next day, his boss went to the servers, downloaded the video, and provided the video to Eddy to then give to Diddy and KK. Eddy said he then called KK and told her that the video was ready, and once again, she passed the phone to Diddy. Eddy then said he went to Diddy's address to personally deliver the video to him. Eddy then further stated Diddy really wanted to verify that this was the only existing copy of this video. Eddy responded, "I believe so." Eddy further stated that when he arrived at Diddy's place, Diddy FaceTimed Cassie, and Cassie confirmed that she didn't want the video out either. Eddy stated that he then signed a non-disclosure agreement, and Diddy pulled out a money counter and handed him $100,000 in cash. Eddy said he didn't really read the non-disclosure agreement, but then he divided the money up between 3 different parties. Eddy said he gave $50,000 to his boss. He gave $20,000 to another security officer that was there by the name of Henry Elias, and he kept $30,000 for himself. Eddy further confirmed that he was merely making $10.50 an hour at the time. Eddy stated after the incident, and in around 2017 or 2018, he reached out to Diddy asking if Diddy had any work for him. Eddy stated that Diddy never responded. Eddy then said that Easter that Diddy called him to ask if anyone had reached out for a copy of the video, and Eddy responded he didn't believe so. Eddy said when the video resurfaced, he spoke to Israel Flores and Henry Elias, but he deleted those messages immediately after. He further stated that police did contact him, but he wasn't honest about his involvement. Eddy's testimony was explosive. Do you see now why he wanted to invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination? Not only did Eddy say that he knew about the video, but he helped Diddy to conceal it. Eddy stated that KK and Diddy reached out to him relentlessly until they got exactly what they wanted. Eddy painted Diddy and KK in a light that I don't think we can merely erase. My mind is blown. His testimony was rather intriguing. It was super necessary, and it was really important that the jurors heard from Eddy. After Eddy's testimony on direct had concluded, his cross-examination was handled by Brian Steele. Brian's cross-examination of Eddy was succinct. He merely went over portions of Eddy's signed non-disclosure agreement that Eddy already stated he didn't even read. In those portions, Eddy was shown specific segments that stated that Eddy could involve law enforcement or governmental agencies without breaching the non-disclosure agreement. I know what I'm about to say next is going to come as a complete and utter shock to all of you. But most people don't read the full terms and conditions of what they sign. Okay? That just is what it is. A lot of time when you're renewing a contract or doing something, you click and scroll all the way down to the bottom and click accept. Most people don't read it. So I give Brian Steele his credit where I think it's due. I don't really know if going over the specific portions of the non-disclosure agreement was actually helpful, because Eddy already told you he didn't read it. So even if it said in it that he didn't go to law enforcement and blue, Eddy didn't testify that the non-disclosure agreement was the reason he didn't go to law enforcement. He said he was scared for himself. It had nothing to do with the non-disclosure agreement. I don't think this cross hit at all. After Eddy's testimony had concluded, the government called their 24th witness to the stand, Derek Ferguson. Derek is the former head of finance for Combs Enterprise, and his direct examination was conducted by AUSA Christy Slavik. Derek testified that he worked for Diddy from 1998 until 2017. I'm not the best with math, but that's 19 years. That's almost 20 years. That's a really long time. Derek further confirmed that he was the chief finance officer from 1998 until 2012. 8 years. 14 years. 14 years. I'm a lawyer, not a doctor. Derek further stated that his responsibilities included budget setting and record keeping. He stated that both he and Diddy were the signatories on the business bank accounts. The jurors then heard the government review various bank records that belonged to Diddy's companies. Derek stated that Diddy would charge both personal and business expenses on his cards from time to time. Derek stated that the members of his team would determine which business or entity a charge belonged to and then pay them. Derek stated that paying performers in cash was a common practice during his early years of working for Diddy. Jurors then saw a detailed bank statement from 2011 where Diddy wired $20,000 to Cassie's dad. All I want to say here is remember Cassie's mother, Regina's testimony. She stated that her and her husband wired Diddy $20,000, and a few days later he wired it right back. This corroborates that. Finally, Derek Ferguson testified that after leaving the company, his contact with Diddy was actually really rare. Please remember, the prosecution has to prove a corporation, business entity, or enterprise, right? I mean, not in those exact words, but remember all of the elements that we discussed during the very first video when we talked about Diddy. I think that bringing Derek Ferguson on the stand to testify about the enterprise that he was involved with in Diddy, to testify about Diddy's expenses throughout the enterprise, to testify that Diddy was using his business as a front for some of his personal expenses was super important. That was really good. That was really good testimony that we got out of Derek. Let's see what happens during his cross-examination. Derek's cross-examination was handled by Diddy's defense attorney, Marc Agnifilo. During cross-examination, Derek testified that Diddy's personal assistants and security were paid by the business. Derek further testified that all taxes were done correctly. Derek stated that he never saw anyone help Diddy commit crimes. Derek stated that working for Diddy was hard, but he worked long hours with very talented people. After Derek's cross-examination concluded, the jurors were dismissed for the day. Maybe I need to see Marc more in action, because I feel like this has become like a critique of Marc. Like all of my videos are a critique of Marc, but I'm trying to figure out what point Marc disproved with his questions. No one said the taxes were done incorrectly. What was the point of asking that? Anyways, let's continue to the next day of trial. Trial day 16 continued on Wednesday, June 4th of 2025. Much like yesterday, another witness came into the courtroom to invoke their right against self-incrimination. This time, the witness was Bryana Bongolan. Let me know if I'm saying that wrong. The court granted Bryana immunity, and she was going to testify later. So let's see exactly what she needed that immunity grant for. After Bryana's grant of immunity, the government called their 25th witness, Frank Piazza, to the stand. AUSA Madison Smyser did the direct examination on behalf of the government. During direct examination, Frank testified that he's an audio and video editor. Frank further confirmed that he's being paid $295 an hour for his work on this case. Frank further testified that he does more work for defense attorneys than he does for prosecutors, despite testifying on behalf of the government this time. Frank testified he doesn't know anything about the facts in this case, but he did review cell phone videos, sex videos, and surveillance footage. In regard to the infamous surveillance footage from March of 2016, Frank testified it was not manually altered in any way. During Frank's testimony, the jurors are then shown the surveillance footage once more. Frank testified that he further enhanced 10 different sex videos that were recovered from a laptop that Cassie turned over to the government. Frank further clarified that the videos were retrieved from the Frank Black user profile that was on Cassie's laptop. He said that in order to examine the videos credibly, he increased their audio. In regards to Frank's direct examination, he's probably one of the witnesses I've been most excited to hear from. I think that in a lot of situations and in a lot of cases, when the government does have surveillance footage of anything, the most typical way to try to discredit it is to say that it was altered. It was snipped, clipped, what have you. If memory serves me, I think Teny did it at some point during someone's cross-examination, but you guys let me know, I'm not sure. Regardless, Frank testifying that he is an expert in this, he does this for a living, that none of this was manually altered at all, that this is a correct depiction of what happened on that date and in that time. I think that was so good. It's kind of funny that I mentioned Teny Geragos because at this point, Teny Geragos does the cross-examination of Frank on behalf of the defense team. During cross-examination, Frank testified that he got the video from the prosecutors, but he doesn't know where they got it from. And like I said, as is typical, during cross-examination, Teny tried to imply that the video had cuts in it, and Frank clarified, this video has not been altered. I think Teny wasted her time by getting up there and trying to cross-examine this man by saying it looks like the video had cuts in it, specifically when he just testified that it has not been manually altered. So to get up there and try to discredit him by saying it actually does appear to have cuts when you aren't the video expert was silly. I don't think it went anywhere, and I don't think it had any impact on the jurors. With Frank off the stand, the government then called their 26th witness, Bryana Bongolan. And again, if I'm saying that wrong, correct me in the comment section. AUSA Madison Smyser did the direct examination on behalf of the government. But please remember, okay, you guys, that Bryana is the person who went into court earlier in the day and said that she wanted to invoke her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. So let's hear what she testifies to that made her want to invoke that right. Bryana stated that back in 2016, Diddy held her over a 17-story balcony and she sustained injuries as a result of it. Bryana said she had a bruise on the back of her leg and she also had neck pain. Bryana said that still to this day, she has night terrors over this incident. Bryana said that Cassie is a good friend of hers still to this day, and she didn't want to meet Diddy upon learning that he was dating Cassie because she saw Cassie with a black eye. Bryana further stated that she met with Diddy a full year after he and Cassie started dating, and that's only because Cassie kept begging her to do it. Bryana stated that there was an eerie incident back in 2016 where she and Cassie went shopping and Diddy sent Cassie a list of all the places the pair had been. Bryana also testified about remembering an altercation between Cassie and Diddy on the night of her 29th birthday. Bryana also testified about another altercation she remembered when Bryana, Cassie, and Diddy were inside of Cassie's apartment. She said that Diddy threw a knife at Cassie, and Cassie threw it right back. Bryana stated that her and Cassie did a lot of drugs together, but they would try at times to become better because they actually wanted to lead sober lives. She said that instead of doing drugs together, her and Cassie tried to take up cooking, but that hobby didn't really last too long. Bryana stated that during the 2016 beach photo shoot, Diddy came super close to her face and said something along the lines of, "I'm the devil and I could kill you." Bryana, as is typical of a lot of the witnesses in this case, stated she never reported the incident to police because she was afraid. Bryana said that she saw a chiropractor the same day of the balcony incident to treat her injuries. Bryana stated that in 2024, a music producer by the name of Rob Holiday called her to discuss the settlement with Diddy. Bryana stated that Rob was a mutual friend of both her and Diddy's, that she refused to settle, and instead she filed a lawsuit requesting $10 million in damages. Bryana's testimony was absolutely chilling, but it's not something that's uncommon here. Her testimony fits the same theme that does many of the other witnesses that testified here. They were super afraid of Diddy. They were afraid to report him. He did some alleged things to them that they were fearful of, but they were too scared to report him. I think Bryana just corroborates more of the fact that Diddy was abusive. Let's see what happens during Bryana's cross-examination. Bryana's cross-examination is handled by Diddy's defense attorney, Nicole Westmoreland. During cross-examination, Bryana stated that both she and Cassie had drug problems before meeting Diddy. Bryana stated that she is still friends with both Cassie and Deontay Nash, and she has spoken to them since the trial has began, but they have not talked about their testimony. Bryana testified that Cassie asked her if she could mention Bryana in her civil suit against Diddy, but Bryana didn't want to be mentioned. Defense then pulled up interviews between Bryana and the government, where Bryana stated that Cassie and Diddy would get into knife fights, and when asked about this, Bryana stated she didn't remember. Defense then questioned Bryana's testimony about Diddy telling her that he was the devil and he could kill her, and when asked when exactly did she mention that to prosecution, Bryana stated she didn't remember. Defense then went through Bryana's demand letter that stated during the balcony incident, Diddy told Bryana that he was the devil and he could kill her, and Bryana stated those were two separate incidents. Bryana was then asked why she didn't tell the prosecution specific details about the balcony incident, and again she stated she didn't remember. Bryana's cross-examination actually led us into the 17th day of trial on Thursday, June 5th of 2025. During continued cross-examination, defense asked Bryana whether or not Cassie saw the balcony incident because they claimed that Bryana previously told the government that she did. Bryana stated that she heard Cassie's voice, but she can't speak for her. Bryana confirmed that she continued to hang out with Cassie and Diddy after the alleged balcony incident, but she stated she probably should have done that. And to conclude her cross-examination, defense directly asked Bryana, well, you came in here to lie to these jurors, did you not? And Bryana responded, I cannot agree with you. I have said this a million times before, but I think that Brian Steele and Nicole Westmoreland have a specific technique when they're doing cross-examination that almost always hits. I think that although Bryana testified credibly during direct examination, the fact that she kept saying she didn't remember things during cross-examination was kind of damaging. She didn't remember most of the things, and she didn't remember how it happened, and she didn't remember the facts or recall the order of events or the sequences. I thought that was really odd. I think that defense was able to poke so many holes in Bryana's testimony, as well as question her credibility in the eyes of the jurors. And I think that they did a really good job with this cross-examination. Oh my gosh, I forgot to note that after Bryana's testimony, the court admonished Diddy because it said that Diddy was nodding vigorously at the jurors. And it informed Diddy that it could exclude him from the proceedings if he continued to do so. After the admonishment, the prosecution then called their 27th witness to the stand, Enrique Santos. Enrique is an analyst who performed forensic examinations of the devices that were provided to him. AUSA Christy Slavik did the direct examination on behalf of the government, and Enrique merely testified to all of the extractions that he did on Cassie's devices. After his brief direct examination testimony, and during cross, Enrique confirmed that some of the contact names were either lost or altered during his extraction of the devices. There's really not much to say about Enrique. Like I tell you guys all the time, there's certain types of witnesses that I call foundational witnesses, and he was exactly that. Neither the prosecution nor the defense team did a whole lot in questioning him, and I think that was appropriate and perfect. So let's move on to our next witness, witness number 28, that the prosecution called to the stand, by the name of Jane. You'll notice that I said Jane when I was introducing this witness, and that's because much like Mia, Jane is testifying under a pseudonym. AUSA Maurene Comey handled Jane's direct examination. Jane testified that she was dating Diddy from 2021 to 2024. Jane testified that she first met Diddy on a girls' trip in Miami in 2020. Jane testified that Diddy was romantically involved with one of her friends who was on the girls' trip. Jane also clarified that Diddy was the one who paid for the trip. Jane testified that she exchanged numbers with Diddy shortly after meeting, and she went to his studio to get drugs with him. Jane testified that the next day after meeting Diddy, Diddy hosted a pool party for her and all of her girls, and her and Diddy were really flirtatious. Jane testified that during another trip in 2021 to Turks and Caicos, Diddy gave her a love bracelet, and the pair took ecstasy together about 10 times throughout the 9 days that they were there. Jane testified that her relationship with Diddy lasted until his arrest in September of 2024. Jane stated she knew she wasn't monogamous with Diddy, and the pair kept their relationship a secret. Jane testified that Diddy gave her $6,000 in cash when she relocated to California in June of 2021. Jane testified that one night, Diddy mentioned bringing in another man for Jane to have sex with, and she agreed. Jane stated that unbeknownst to her, the man would show up merely hours after Diddy's initial proposal. She stated that that night, the man came over, had sex with her, and Diddy watched. Jane stated that she was exhilarated by the night, but she felt like she couldn't escape. Jane testified that about 90% of the time that she had sex with Diddy, another man was involved. She further clarified that in 2021, she informed Diddy that she no longer wanted to be a part of this, and he ignored her. Jane stated that Diddy paid for her rent, and he merely implied that if they stopped the arrangement of Jane having sex with other men and Diddy watching, he would stop paying for the rent. Jane stated that being with Diddy hurt her financially, but periodically he would give her amounts ranging from $5,000 to $10,000. Jane stated the most that Diddy ever gave her at a time was $20,000, and that's when she needed furniture for her new home. Jane stated that she then proposed to Diddy the idea that she wanted to start an OnlyFans account because one of her friends was really successful and made $4 million in a year, but Diddy didn't want her to. Jane then stated after a big fight with Diddy, the pair agreed that she would get $10,000 a month as an allowance over the next 2 years as a love contract. Jane further confirmed that freak-offs would occur in multiple cities. Jane's testimony on direct examination transitioned us into the 18th day of Diddy's trial on Friday, June 6th of 2025. During continued direct examination, Jane testified that the pair met a man by the name of Don, and while they were having sex, Jane asked him to wear a condom, and Diddy refused to allow him to do so. Jane testified that during these hotel nights, she would just take drugs because she didn't want it to feel real. Jane stated that KK further told her that it was okay to fly drugs for Diddy. I don't know the justification behind that, but that's what Jane said that KK told her. Jane stated during one night, her and Diddy were watching porn together, and they saw a male performer by the name of Sly, and Jane messaged him on Instagram to inform him about her and Diddy's little arrangements. Jane stated that after their arrangement with Sly and sleeping with Sly, she remembered meeting another man that she was absolutely repulsed by. Jane stated that the man was sweaty and smelled horribly, but Diddy urged her to continue having sex with him. Jane stated that she had her nipples pierced and she took them out, and when Diddy learned that she took them out, he demanded that she put them back in. Jane stated although she didn't care that Diddy was with other women, she was jealous of the treatment she felt that those other women received. Jane further stated that Diddy didn't like her teeth, so he paid for her to get veneers. The 18th day of Diddy's trial concluded with Jane's direct examination testimony, but I will let you know we are nowhere near done with what Jane testified to. Jane's testimony will continue on the next Monday, June 9th of 2025. Next week, we will continue our coverage of the 5th full week of Diddy's trial. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, y'all take care.